In this lesson, I'm going to take you through the 8 money archetypes that were created by Deborah Price, who is the author of the book called Money Magic. I find these archetypes really useful because when you're aware of your behavior and your functioning, then with that awareness, you can change it. Ultimately, what we want to do is become a money magician, hence the name of her book, Money Magic. But because we have had learnings and experiences from our past related to money that don't serve us, we can end up more stuck in a victim archetype, a martyr archetype, an innocent archetype, not marketype, warrior archetype, but warrior that's pushing too much. And it's not a healthy place to be. So when you have that awareness, then you can work on transforming your relationship with money and your money personality. So I'm going to go through all the archetypes and then talk a little bit at the end about how you can transform to becoming a money magician. Okay, so let's start with the innocent archetype. The innocent archetype is the one that we're all born with. So it's a good place to start. It's, you feel really overwhelmed by financial information, really don't feel qualified to manage money, and you rely heavily on the advice and opinions of others. You take the ostrich approach to money matters, so you bury your head in the sand and hope that somebody will rescue you, often living in denial so that you don't have to really feel and see what's going on. You can be very trusting and sometimes overly trusting around money, and sometimes don't see people or situations for what they truly are, meaning they could be taking advantage of you. And with the innocent archetype, you don't recognize that. And you have not learned yet to judge or discern other people's motives or behavior. Your goal is safety at all costs. If the innocent archetype, if you score highly in the innocent archetype, your primary fear is of abandonment. There are more female innocent archetypes than male, because women are encouraged by our culture sometimes to be unassertive and trusting. And the innocent archetype is often romantically paired with a tyrant or a warrior money type who will thrive on rescuing the innocent. So the characteristics of the innocent type are trusting, indecisive, happy-go-lucky externally. On the outside, it's all la, 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 but inside, there can be deep fear and anxiousness, financially dependent, non-confrontational, so lacking courage and assertiveness around money matters and money discussions, feeling powerless, represses feelings and beliefs, and seeks security. The innocent must learn to claim her own power and find safety in the knowledge of her own capabilities, that self-confidence. When she experiences her independence, her fear of abandonment dissipates, as does her innocence. In time, she will become fully capable of experiencing her own power. The innocent is like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She must learn that her power lies not with the wizard, but within herself. Not with the wizard, but within herself. So it's taking responsibility and owning that power inside of you. Once she does, she can find her way anywhere. That's the innocent. The victim archetype is prone to living in the past and blaming their financial woes on external factors. They can be passive aggressive in nature, not communicating directly, prone to expressing their feelings in indirect rather than direct ways, because it's probably what they learned, a way of functioning that they learned, which is not a healthy way of communicating at all. Often appears to be an innocent archetype because they seem so powerless and appear to want others to take care of them. Often either a conscious or subconscious ploy to get others to do for them what they refuse to do for themselves. Generally have a litany of excuses for why they're not more successful. This can really get in the way of financial and personal success. When you are holding on to limitations and excuses and feeling, oh, I can't because poor me, because I have this thing, and giving power to this external circumstance rather than magically trusting that you're going to figure it out and taking full responsibility. Victims are always looking for someone to rescue them because they believe they have suffered enough. Victims have suffered. They have been abused, betrayed, or suffered some great loss. The problem is they have never processed their pain, and so it has turned on them. So a lot of compassion for the victim archetype, but also take responsibility to process pain. We cannot, the cards that we were dealt, we cannot control, but we are in control of how we play those cards. So if you have experienced abuse or some deep trauma, get help and heal, and then you'll shift out of the victim archetype, because it's a very powerless place to be. Characteristics of the victim archetype: prone to blaming others, highly emotional, melancholy, or angry, lives in the past, financially irresponsible, seeks to be rescued, resentful, unforgiving, addictive, can be addictive, lives out a self-fulfilling prophecy, and feels powerless. For the victim's paradise to shift, he or she must learn to understand and heal their past wounds. Victims are the most resistant to unlocking the door to their potential. So if you notice that you score high in the victim archetype, and that is if you work with me to go through your past and current situation, and I help you to identify, and there's also a quiz you can take to identify which money archetype you are. If you score high in the victim, then absolutely work through processing your past trauma so that you can live in the present and not be haunted by your past. It's as if at some point victims decide that their history was much more interesting and exciting than any future they might have. They form a lifetime attachment to living out of the drama of their past. After all, when you are the star, the producer, and director of your own lifelong soap opera, it can become pretty hard to let go of those roles. It feels risky. There might not be a role like that ever again. The victim's primary fear is being betrayed, and ironically, what victims do not see is that they are most often betrayed by themselves, betraying themselves with their beliefs and their behaviors, and believing that it's something external that's causing their grief. Spiritual transformation for victims comes when they are able to see how their past experience can be a powerful tool and catalyst for change. When victims travel inward and heal the wounds of the past, they are able to move fully into life. Until they do, however, they are not truly living in the present and certainly have little promise of a future. Beware, little promise of a future. We don't want that. Heal that past and commit to leaving it behind and living in the present and being the author of your own future, your own magical future. They're simply living off the reruns, which inevitably becomes monotonous. So no matter how good the story was, that's the victim. Moving out of past-based drama is a deeply profound experience for victims. Because victims have generally truly suffered, when they become enlightened, they bring forth a great capacity for compassion, love, and understanding, qualities essential in the making of all great money magicians. So there is definitely light at the end of the victim tunnel. The next archetype is the warrior archetype, generally seen as successful in the business and financial worlds. Adept investors, focused, decisive, and in control. Warriors will listen but make their own decisions and rely on their own instincts and resources to guide them. The world is filled with warrior types, and they are powerful, driven, loyal, competitive, disciplined, goal-oriented, financially successful, confident, calculating, generous, rescuer, wise, and discerning. They often have difficulty understanding the difference between an adversary and a worthy opponent. A worthy opponent presents an opportunity to put down the sword. If you look at the magician, which we'll talk about at the end, the magician doesn't need the sword. The warriors, holding onto that sword sometimes too strongly, and embrace one's potential for growth and transformation. A worthy opponent is usually the person with whom you have the greatest conflict. When we are willing to recognize the lesson this person has to teach, even when it is disguised as conflict, their presence is worthy of our attention. When we acknowledge the conflict as an opportunity for growth, our opponent has in fact served us. I love the my motto is it's happening for me, not to me. So no matter what conflict is in my life, it's happening for me, not to me. They're showing up in disguise for me to grow from that experience. So that's an empowered stance to take. The primary fears of the warrior are dependence and loss of power. The spiritual journey of warriors, financially speaking, is to understand what they're truly seeking is to protect and to establish boundaries around what is most important to them. And this means knowing when and why to pick up the sword and when to put it down. We all need a bit of healthy warrior inside of us because the warrior makes things happen. The question is at what cost? An enlightened warrior knows the answer. So, you know, the warrior is like running themselves into the ground to, you know, to be successful, and it's not a magical way to live. The next archetype is the martyr archetype. The martyr is so busy taking care of others' needs that they often neglect their own. Generally, they do more for others than they do for themselves. They often rescue others, so, like a child, a spouse, a friend, or a relative from some life circumstances or crisis. Martyrs' gifts have strings attached. Beware of the martyr. And they are repeatedly let down when others fail to meet their expectations. You know, it's like, I will rescue you, I will give you that, but then you owe me. And that's a horrible way to live. You know, if you have any of that you owe me energy for other people, let it go, because it's a negative, toxic energy to hold onto. So take responsibility for your decisions, choose to do things without expecting things in return, and you let go of that martyr energy. Characteristics of the martyr type are controlling, manipulative, long-suffering, secretive, caretaker, self-sacrificing, disappointed, critical and judgmental, perfectionist, resentful, passive-aggressive, compassionate, and wise. So there are positive aspects that can be alchemized. The martyr moves between two different energies, one that seeks to be in control and is controlling of others, and one that feels wounded like a very needy child. The perfectionists with high expectations of themselves and others, quite capable of realizing their dreams because they put so much energy into being right. Often they live in high drama, experiencing a lot of highs and lows. They struggle with their attachment to negative experience, and they see the glass as half empty instead of half full. That's not much fun. And you know, what comes to me for a martyr is that expression, after all I've done for you. You know, it's like, oh, I'm suffering this so much because I did all of this, and look at you. That's how you show your gratitude to me. So beware of that, because it's not a fun way to live, and it's not a fun experience to be on the receiving end of that either. Martyrs who are willing to do their own spiritual work to heal their wounds have the capacity to become gifted healers and powerful manifestors, money magicians. The next archetype is the fool. The fool plays by a different set of rules, a gambler by nature, always looking for a windfall of money by taking financial shortcuts. The fool can win because they're willing to throw the dice. So they're courageous, they're daring, they're willing to take chances. They're a combination of the innocent and the warrior, because sometimes they can make not very clever decisions and be taken in. They have impaired judgment and difficulty seeing the truth about things. They're adventurers at heart, and they get caught up in the enthusiasm of the moment, caring little for the details. Relatively fearless in their endeavor. So a fool is, you know, people who, you know, they get rich quick schemes, you know, they fall for those, and, you know, they don't look at the small details. They say, oh my God, this is amazing, I've got to do this. And, you know, without weighing it up rationally to see if it is a good decision. They remain eternal optimists, regardless of their circumstances. They seem to always land on their feet, and they're not easily defeated. They set out to conquer the world, but they get easily distracted. They lack the discipline of the warrior, more interested in making money as a sport or form of recreation than as a serious endeavor. And they would happily give the shirt off their backs only to realize later, oops, it was the last shirt. They live very much in the moment and are quite unattached to future outcome. Pursues money for the simple pleasure of the pursuit. Until the fool becomes enlightened, she will continue to attract money easily, only to have it quickly slip through her fingers because she's not paying attention. So becoming a better money manager and taking responsibility for the financial decisions will transform that fool archetype into the money magician. Characteristics of the fool type are restless, undisciplined, financially irresponsible, impetuous, optimistic, overly generous, happy-go-lucky, adventurous, and lives for today. Not mentioned here, but one that comes to mind is also bored. You know, I think restless, bored. It's like, oh, I want to have something exciting happen. The next money archetype is the creator artist. The creator artist is on a spiritual or artistic path and find living in the material world difficult. They frequently have a conflicted love-hate relationship with money. They love money for the freedom it buys them, have little or no desire to participate in the material world, often overly identify with the interior world, with the inside, and may even despise those who live in the material world, which is not healthy. They have negative beliefs about materialism, only block them from the freedom. Their negative beliefs about materialism only block them from the freedom they desire. And they most fear being inauthentic or not being true to themselves. Since it is almost impossible to attract what we are repelled by, the creator artist is constantly struggling for financial survival. Not because they lack talent or ambition, but because they are stuck in a belief system that sabotages their ability to manifest money. Too many people on the creative artistic path feel that money is bad or lacking in spirituality. This is only true to the extent that one believes it is true. And to the extent that creator artists maintain this belief system, they are limiting themselves and creating a block to the flow of money. It's really great to have this awareness around your archetypes, because you can then see, I'm creating a block to my flow of money there with my creator artist archetype behavior. Since they have spent much of their time and attention on their inner journey and creative potential, creator artists already possess many of the qualities necessary to become money magicians. This money type most needs to accept the outer world and embrace its many dimensions. To stop suffering from the tension they feel between the spiritual and material worlds, they must learn to embrace both worlds as part of their own duality. The characteristics of this creator artist archetype are highly artistic and or spiritual, passive, internally motivated, detached, non-materialistic, a loner, and a seeker of the truth. All beautiful characteristics, but if you're identifying with this archetype, think about, okay, how can I become more of a money magician? And, you know, whilst not losing all those beautiful creative qualities. The Tyrant. The Tyrant uses money to control people, events, and circumstances. They hoard money and use it to manipulate and control others. They may have everything they need or desire, but never feel complete, comfortable, or at peace. Their greatest fear is loss of control. Tyrants often have overdeveloped warriors who've become highly invested in their need for control and dominance, often seeming heroic in their concern for others' welfare, but are purely self-interested. They want power and control for their own sake and will forsake other people if necessary to gain more of it. What comes to my mind around the Tyrant is also a narcissist. Covert or overt narcissists are often tyrants. Tyrants are rulers who dominate and destroy with no sign of remorse, can be found among political leaders, business people, and family figureheads who use whatever means necessary to win. A master manipulator of both people and money. Perhaps it's because the Tyrant type is presented as the image of financial success in our society that so many of us secretly believe money is bad. Interesting, huh? I'm quoting Deborah Price in her book, The Money Magic, when I share that. Television and the media do their part to further convince us that although we may think we want more money, we fear losing ourselves and becoming caught up in the greed and power like the Tyrant. Tyrants are not as rich as they appear. Sure, they have everything money can buy, which often does include beautiful people, and never have to worry about paying the phone bill, but they lack many things that money cannot buy. They're often, in spite of their apparent success, very fearful, and rarely feel any sense of fulfillment. The tyrant suffers from a condition I call chronic not enoughness. The characteristics of the tyrant are controlling, rigid, manipulative, fearful, oppressive, prone to rage or violence, critical and judgmental, aggressive, unforgiving, secretive, and highly materialistic. We got there, the magician, the final archetype. And the magician archetype is the one that is, that we should all aspire to be. It's the ideal money type. Magicians know how to transform and manifest their own financial reality. When we are willing to claim our own power, we are magicians, fully awake and aware of herself, and the magician is fully awake and aware of herself and the world around her, armed with knowledge of the past, and she or he has made peace with their personal history. She or he understands that their power exists in their ability to see and live the truth of who they truly are. They know their ability to manifest lies with her higher power, God, the universe, life, that energy, that magical energy, that, coincidences and synchronicities that happen in life, that kind of magic. Well, the magician has a lot of those show up. With faith, love, and patience, the magician simply waits in certainty. Faith and certainty with the knowledge that all our needs are met all the time. Magicians embrace the inner life as the place of spiritual wealth and the outer life as the expression of enlightenment in the material world. They're infinitely connected. So the characteristics of the magician type, they're spiritual, wise, conscious, vibrant, trusting, generous, loving, fluid. They live in the present. They're powerful, optimistic, confident, and compassionate. So definitely of all the archetypes, that one feels the nicest, right? When you have that trust. But also the magician, part of it is taking responsibility for your for managing your money, making wise, empowered decisions, and just all the time being aware. Am I making this from the archetype of a martyr, a victim, an innocent, a tyrant, a warrior? Or am I leaving out? But go through them all and then think, okay, what would the magician archetype choose in this situation? But it starts with really having a deep faith that you're taken care of. One of my favorite mottos is, everything is always working out for me. I'm always taken care of. And honestly, I have lots of evidence of that in my life. I think it's hard to get there without having a spiritual connection. So otherwise, you're going to, if you're believing that it's only you, that you're not co-creating, that you're the only one creating, then it's a little bit hard to magically manifest something. But if you trust and know that that you're working with some external power, some higher power, another source together, and you tap into that magic, then you are showing up as a money magician. If you want my help with becoming a money magician or stepping more into that energy, not just for money, but in life as well, in your life situation, and choosing a perspective and an attitude that feels empowering and feels deeply trustful, then let me know. I would love to support you, and we'll share with you the various different opportunities there are for working with me. Thanks for tuning in, and please do share this training with anybody you think will benefit from it. Thank you.